Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Skylar. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't filmed one of these in a long time. I don't remember exactly how my intro goes or how my outro goes. I'm also not gonna worry that much about it. I tried recently filming a little short to put on the channel that was just super uplifting, super motivating, super you can be going through something awful and find joy and peace this way, and you can still be happy going through what literally feels like hellfire because of this, and this, and just be all upbeat and smiley and whatever. But I do remember when I first started this channel, I believe it was March or something towards the beginning of this year, I said I didn't want it to be super, what's the word I'm looking for? Staged, disingenuine, artificial. I didn't want to come on here and put out emotions that I wasn't actually feeling or portray a mindset that I was not actually in. I wanted, through vulnerability and sincerity, and even if that included emotions, I wanted to use that to build rapport and connection and to make this more of a real one-on-one honest discussion. So I'm going to be completely transparent. I'm in a terrible place right now. I started this channel when kind of coming out of a terrible place, and that situation started a little earlier than this time last year, but this new season of struggling actually started on the exact same day that it did last year. So to come full circle in a negative way, it's very discouraging, I'll be honest. It is extremely discouraging, very disheartening. And I was trying to put off filming something while in that state, or if I was going to film something in that state, I wanted it to be, yay, sunshine, rainbows, we have Jesus, so everything is okay. And that is not an incorrect statement. Ultimately, on whatever side of heaven it be, everything will be okay. We know how it ends, indefinitely. We know who wins in the end, but the end could literally be in another lifetime. It could be years and years after you and I leave this earth. It does not mean everything's okay right now. And kind of the theme of this video is going to be debunking some Christian code, Christianese statements or affirmations used a lot by the modern church that sound really good and have always sounded really good, but are not actually biblical or scriptural. And they're more of just a feel-good, sounds moral, sounds right, but there isn't necessarily 100% truth to them. And I think I will be, at some point in the near future, filming a video sharing a bit more about what happened last year and what's happening this year. Not in graphic detail or with any names or anything like that, but just to give a bit more transparency, to be a bit more honest and open and vulnerable so you can understand really where I'm at saying these things. And also I do help to take a certain direction with the channel for a while, coming off those discussions. A lot of it revolves around relationships and what certain people have done or did, and how that impacts me and how it can impact someone like me, and just trying to focus on that specific ministry for a little while. But before I get into that or do that video where I kind of give a bit more information, I wanted to take a moment, and I have my computer down here, I'm referencing it, so I typed some stuff down. Before I get into that stuff in a later video, I wanted to take some time to record a discussion of some of these phrases that I've encountered a lot during seasons of healings, whether it be the season last year, the season this year, although I don't really feel like I'm healing yet. I feel like I'm still kind of in the grunt of it, or just past experiences in life. And I'm sure a lot of these will sound really familiar. And again, there is some truth to these, there are elements of truth, but most of them, when you look into scriptures and actually dig into the meat of the word, you'll see that it looks really nice and fluffy, kind of like a lot of what the modern church likes to do, but it's not actually based and it's not actually scriptural. So, this first one is not so much a statement or an affirmation, but it's more like this idea that we have, and I think it's a lot of the reason why some people run away from Christianity. And it's this idea that, you know, when you have faith and when you trust in God, no matter what you're going through, you will always have comfort and you will always have peace. And again, like I said, a lot of these things do have elements of truth to them. Obviously, joy is something that is everlasting and eternal, that we always have in the Lord, and that is something that is so much more powerful than an earthly or fleshly happiness. But joy and peace, even though they are something that is established in us almost at the time of salvation, there is peace in knowing God has already won. There's peace in knowing He holds us. There's peace in knowing our identity is grounded in Him, and we have joy because we know this truth, and we have the truth of the gospel, and we know what's going to happen ultimately. But that does not mean that we always have this sensation of peace or just overwhelming joy no matter what life brings us, because the Bible is explicitly clear in saying we are going to struggle, we are going to go through trials, we are going to be miserable, because the world is going to hate us, and the world is going to attack us the same way it hated and attacked Jesus when He walked on earth. So that's just something, again, this one isn't really like a direct quote, but it's this idea that, oh my gosh, I am so happy and so content and so comforted in what I know to be true, even though my life is falling apart. It is okay, even as a believer, as someone with a relationship with our Almighty Creator, it is okay even as that person to be in pain and to struggle and to doubt and to feel just your faith not crumble but just shake a little bit. And that's what makes something a real and genuine relationship and not just a religion, when it's not just this blind faith or this blind glazed over masquerade masks. I'm thinking masquerade because there's a song by Casting Crowns that talks about this masquerade that people put on when they go to church. But that glazed over blind faith, deer in the headlights, blissfulness is not real. There are going to be moments when you go through things you don't understand, and God might not lead you to understand in that moment or in that season. Ultimately, He might bring some light to it or guide you out of that season, or bring things all around and work them out. We do know He will always work stuff out, but that doesn't mean it's going to be happening in that moment, or in that moment that you're going to feel okay. There are going to be moments when you do not feel okay, and there are going to be moments when, despite what you know and believe, you feel, for lack of a better word, like crap. You feel awful, and you feel like you are alone and have been abandoned, and like nothing is ever going to get better. And those moments are just as real as the moments in which you're like, okay, God, you've got this. I have full faith in you. I know you're going to work this all out together for your good. Both of those moments exist as a part of the Christian walk, and I feel like as the modern church and as just almost like this Pinteresty social media Christianity has put on this front that we are always smiling no matter what we're going through, and that is not the case. And I can promise you that in the season I've been going through, I have not always been smiling, I have not always been optimistic, and I have not been the most trusting in the Lord in some moments. Some moments I have gotten angry at Him and have had to lean into anger to avoid growing apathetic and just cutting it off completely, because I'm confused and I don't understand what He's doing, and I am so deeply hurt that I cannot sleep through the night. I am waking up just wrecked. And again, I'm not going to get into the details on what my situation is in this video. I will in another one. But just knowing the truth does not mean you're going to have comfort in your present emotional distress. Ultimately, it might bring you comfort, and there might be moments in which you do feel that comfort, and that is beautiful and just as real. But that does not mean that having a faith and having a relationship with God is going to means that you're going to feel okay at all times, no matter what you're going through. That being said, I do want to encourage you, whatever you're going through, whatever season you're in, to focus on what you know, whether or not that's going to make you feel okay in the moment. Because the Bible tells us the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Our emotions are deceitful. They lead us astray. They lead us to believe things that aren't true. And because of that, because we know our heart and our emotions are deceitful, all we can do to find any kind of truth is to turn to what we do know. And that is the fact that the Lord is good, and that He holds all things in the palm of His hand, and that He will work all things together to the good of those who love Him and to His own glory. And He is with us. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. He is our comforter. He is our creator. And we can still lean on those truths and be aware of those truths while maybe not necessarily feeling the comfort of them in the moment. Again, what the emotions we're feeling are deceitful, and they're going to lead us to feel a certain way, and that way is not okay. That does not change the fact that the truth is good and that the truth is beautiful. So there is this balance of making sure we are not forgetting the truth, making sure we're hanging on to the truth, but also being aware of what we feel and that it might not line up at the moment. But that's when it's most important to lean into the truth and to rely on the truth. I just don't like when Christians make it seem as though the truth makes everything okay in the moment, or that you always feel super comforted or super at peace in something because of the truth. Ultimately, we will get to a point in which God explains things, he makes things clear, he gives us peace with a situation, he heals us from a situation. That does not mean that moment is right now, so you don't have to fake feeling okay and like you understand when you don't. One thing I mentioned, I think, pretty early on in this channel is that the truth is relative, or we all have our own truth, it's not a real statement, or it's not a true statement. You don't invent truth based on what you want it to be or based on what you believe. The truth exists with or without you. Morality exists with or without you. And we don't get to pick and choose. But that being said, the truth doesn't always make it feel okay. It's not always comforting in the moment because, God has a timeline for everything. And it might not be time for it to be okay yet. It might not be time for you to understand everything yet. And that's okay. Trust in the Lord's timing. That does not mean there aren't going to be moments when you feel awful and you don't understand. Something else I have on here, and again, I'm saying all of these carefully because there is truth to them. So take this with a grain of salt. Praying in light of God's will rather than just asking for God's will. Something you'll hear a lot with Christians or with the church, or maybe on like an Instagram post, is, ask God for his will. Ask that his will be done. Just ask for what he wants for your life. And there might be situations at which you just, completely give up control, or you don't really have any direction or something that you specifically want. So you say, Lord, make your will for me clear. Take me where you need me to be. Give me direction. I need your will to be made clear. I would love you to just bring to pass whatever it is that you have for me. There are moments where that is appropriate and fitting, but I know that as a person, I hate it when a friend of mine or family member or whoever won't tell me what it is, that they want. And their answer is always very nonchalant, non-passionate, just whatever you want. I don't care. It's whatever you want. You pick. I don't care. Whatever you want. You know what's best. Whatever you want. I don't like that. Because, it's a friendship. I want you to be honest with me. I want to know who you are. I want to know your heart. I want to know your desires. Tell me what it is that you want. Tell me who you are. Tell me what you aspire to be, or what you aspire to have in your life. Tell me what you want. If you know what you want for lunch, tell me. You might not know, and that's fine. Especially if you're a girl watching this, we often don't know what we want for lunch. But, if you know what you want, it's okay to be honest with someone that you love and trust and tell them what that is. And, the Lord asks us to be the same way. I think of the story in Matthew that I read recently. And again, with any verses or stories that I'm referencing, I'll put the scriptural reference on the screen. I'm not going to stop and look them all up right now because that'll take too long. But there's a story of these two blind men approaching Jesus. And this is going to be a paraphrase. I don't remember the exact words that were used, and I don't have the Bible in front of me. But they basically tell him, Master, have mercy on us. And the Lord turns to them, and he says, what is it that you want me to do? Of course he knows what they want him to do. He's God. He knows everything. And of course he knows what God will do. He knows his plan for their lives. He knows what's best for them. But he still asks them to be specific with him and make their requests known to him. He wants to know what it is that they want from him. And when he makes that specification, they say, we want you to heal us. Again, a paraphrase. And the Bible mentions that once they're honest with him and tell him what it is that they want, that he has mercy on them and his heart goes out to them and he heals them. He restores their sight. And there's even a example that Jesus himself gave to us when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane the night before, or the night of his trial beginning. And the Bible says that he was pleading and was in so much agony that he was sweating blood, and he was begging God, of course knowing that his Father had a plan, and whatever that plan was, he was going to bring it to pass, and being God himself, he knew what that plan was. That being said, he still begged and pleaded, God, if there's any way, let it not be this. Let there be another way, anything but this. And even knowing that God had a plan and God's will would reign supreme, and even what that will was, he still went and made his heart known, made his requests known. He was honest and vulnerable and raw and said, this is what I want. Please do this for me. And God asks the same of us. He asks us to pray without ceasing, to make our requests known. He asks us to ask the things in his name. And it's a relationship with God. It's personal. It's you see also with Christians who are like, oh, it's okay, I'm fine. It's that same, oh, whatever you want, Lord. It's not genuine many times. It's just this idea that the church has presented, or that Christianity or modern religion has presented, but that's not actually what a relationship looks like. A relationship is conversational, it's personal, it's bearing your heart to someone else. It's going to our Father and being like, hey, please, this is what I want. That doesn't mean he's always going to give it to you, and you don't want to sit there and ask God for something that is wrong. But if there's something that you feel could be right, you feel could be good or within God's plan for you, and it's something that you really want, then make that request known to him. Again, I'm not going to get into extreme details with my situation because I'm going to do that in another video, but I am praying specifically for a certain outcome. I'm saying, God, if there's any way in your name, please let it be this. Please make this specifically happen, and I'll give details, and I'll sit there and just bare my heart and be like, could this happen? Could you work this? Could you make this happen? And it's a lot more personal. Like I said, it's a lot more of a relationship, and it's a give and take, and not just to sit there and be like, whatever. And like I said, there are moments where you can just ask for God's wisdom and God's will to be done, but he asks us, to bring those specifics to him and to lift up those requests to him and make them known to him. So praying in light of God's will rather than just praying for God's will. All right, so the third point that I have. This one is one that I have come back to a lot while studying the scriptures and really digging and looking for the truth in this situation that I'm in. And that is the statement that you'll hear a lot from the church, from Christians, from religious individuals, and that's the statement that God is all you need. Again, as I've said for each of these points, there is truth to that. God is our Savior. He is our Creator. He's the beginning and the end, the first and the last. We are created by him and for him, and ultimately those of us who believe in him will be present with him for eternity one day. So yes, at the end of the day, he really is the most important thing, and truly the only thing that really, really matters. And we know that he's the only thing we can fully rely on. He is, the same yesterday, today, forever. He will never leave us nor forsake us. And we need to, not confuse needing certain things in this life with being things that we can put full faith or trust in, because truly God is the only thing we can fully rely on and fully trust on, even in the moments, where it doesn't feel good and you feel like your trust or faith has been shaken. We know and understand that ultimately he's the only source of that. So I do want to make that clear. But we also know God did create us to need other things. I am a nursing student. I will be graduating in May with my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. I know fully well we are created to need certain things. We are created to need food and water and oxygen, and there's so many little processes in our bodies that need things to happen a certain way in order for us to live. And it's not always that literal and that physical in terms of survival, but God created us to need other things. He created us to be social creatures. When he looked at his beautiful and perfect creation that he'd already said was good, he looked at Adam and said, this would be better with something else. And he created Eve, he created woman out of man's side for him. That's also a whole other thing I want to do a video on, is the purpose of woman and what she was created for, and how that can create, difficulties with young women who are part of the Christian faith, trying to find their worth and trying to find their value and purpose, and all of that. That's going to be a separate video because that's something I do really want to talk about. But God created us to need other things other than him. I think of the verse, man shall not live on bread alone, indicating, yes, there is something that's better and deeper and richer that we need, which is, him in a relationship with Jesus Christ. But we still do need bread to live. And he created people, and he created other things for us, to take enjoyment in and pleasure in and to need as a part of our lives. And the Bible also says, the Lord will supply all your needs. It does not say the Lord is the supply for all your needs. He said he will supply all your needs, which means there are things he is going to supply to you that you need. So there might be situations you're in which you feel like you've lost something that you need. or now you feel broken, or you're no longer feel whole, or you feel like something is missing, or that you've had something ripped away from you that was incredible and that made you better and that you feel like you needed. And that's okay and completely valid to feel like that. And it's really hard when you are going through something and you're feeling those things, and then someone says to you, you know, God's all you need. Just focus on the Lord. Focus on your relationship with the Lord. Yes, focus on the Lord and focus on your relationship with Him. But that does not mean that you didn't need whatever that was. And that does not actually invalidate what it is that you're feeling, because God created us to need things. And He created certain things to be part of our lives, not just as, humans needing something to survive, but as individuals. He created you specially. He created you with your desires and your personality and your wants and the things that are important to you, the things that benefit you. We're all different, and people might not be able to understand or relate to what it is that you feel like you lost or you feel like you need, but God knows and understands fully, because He created you for that need. At the same time, we do have to remember that He is the supplier of all of our needs, and whatever it is that you feel like you need to get through something, He is going to give it to you. It might not look the way you expect it to. It might feel awful in the moment, and you might feel abandoned and like you don't have whatever it is that you need, and you might be in pain and in just literal shambles and pieces on the ground, and your faith might be shaken, but that does not mean that God is not giving you what you need to get by, and He will supply whatever it is that it's going to take to get you to the next step, or to get to your next chapter and get you to your next journey. And maybe whatever it is that you feel like you need, He is going to give to you ultimately, and He's getting you to that place where He can give it to you. Or it might be He has a greater plan that we don't understand yet, and He's got a different plan for you. Either way, He's going to give you what you need. That does not mean there aren't things that you need, because He's the one that's going to give them to you. So I really don't like that statement, God is all you need. Because yes, ultimately God's the only one we can rely on. He is the most important thing ever, and the only thing in our life that, not that matters, so there are other things that matter, but that will truly matter in the end. I think it's a better way to say it. But that does not mean He is the supply of all of our needs. There's a reason the Bible chooses to say He is the supplier of all of our needs, and He will supply all of our needs. There are needs that we have, and He's going to, give those as He sees fit, and He's the one that created you to need those things. So don't feel bad or feel like a bad Christian, or like your walk is weak, or that your faith is weak because you feel like there's something missing, or there's something that you want. He created you to have those desires and those parts of you that are different and might need something different than the person beside you. That's okay. So I think that's all I have time for this video, was just debunking those ideas of Christian code, Christian lingo, Christianese, however it is that you call it. I've heard a lot of different things, or just misconceptions presented by the modern church. Again, there's a lot of truth to those things, and I hope I made that clear as I kind of went through each of them. But there's also, a lot of deception in that, and there's a lot of, misleading language. Things aren't as literal as those statements make it seem. And I think the way the church presents a lot of those things makes a lot of people struggle in their faith, because they feel like something's wrong, or that they're doing something wrong when they go through a rough patch and they're not handling it, the way this Christian social media influencer looks like they handle it when they get online, and they're just smiling and so joyful and so at peace no matter what it is that's going on. That's not real, and the Bible tells us that we're going to go through things. And like I said, the Bible tells us that the world's going to hate us and we're going to go through it, but it also tells us that when we're going through it and we're burning and we're drowning, He is not going to let it overtake us, and He's going to be present every step of the way. So that is the truth we can rely on, regardless of whether or not it brings a lot of comfort in the moment, because some moments are confusing and they're painful, because at this point He has not let comfort and clarity come. They will come, and there might be moments within that when He lets you feel a little like, okay, maybe I'm going to be okay. But it doesn't mean that, in that moment that you're going to understand that, or you're going to fully grasp that, because it's, it might be too soon for that. Keep in mind also that your pain and your discomfort is part of His plan. And you're not going to, miraculously feel okay if there's something that you're still learning through this, or maybe there's something that someone else is learning, and you're just in this kind of weird feeling limbo period in which you are, suffering at the consequences of something else or someone else, because we live in a fallen society, And unfortunately, sin has a lot of effects. It has a rippling effect, and you could be impacted by something else. And maybe there's not something you're specifically learning or being taught through that, but someone else is. And in that period of time where the situation's been created for whatever it is that they're going through, you might be impacted by it. So I've also had to re-film this in several different pieces. The first time I filmed it all the way through, it didn't save the whole thing. I only got the first half, so now I've had to refilm the rest of it in pieces. So if I'm redundant or missing something, please forgive me. Again, I think that's all I have time for this particular video. I just wanted to take time to touch on that. I have a few plans for videos coming up. Like I mentioned, I wanted to talk about my personal situation last year and this year, not in graphic detail, but just share a bit more of what I've been going through and how that kind of pours into this direction I'm going to take the channel for a little bit. And there's also some ideas of waiting on God versus waiting on a man that I want to talk about. Seeking wisdom without clarity. I'm sorry, I'm reading the list again, which is why I'm looking down. So, making wise decisions that seem to align the best with God's will when he's not giving you clear direction or sense in a situation, when he isn't, intervening directly and giving you, this is what you should do. So how to be wise in situations where things are unclear. And then, like I mentioned, I do want to take some time to talk about relationships, Christian women specifically navigating relationships, identity in that, boundary setting, healing, right person, wrong time, if that's even a possibility, all the things. So there is a lot coming in terms of that. Like I've mentioned before, I'm a full-time nursing student. I'm in my senior year, and there's a lot of class time, a lot of clinicals, and I do have, Christmas break coming up soon, so hopefully during that period of time I can try to film a bit more, but I can't promise how consistent it's going to be at this point. But yeah, luckily it wasn't too emotional in this video. I know I'm smiling. It's kind of hard not to when I put a camera in front of me, but I do hope that I wasn't presenting any kind of false state of mind or false peace or false joy, because I'm not trying to come on here and put on a front. I will be fully transparent in saying I am broken completely right now. I am completely confused and exhausted is a good word for it. Very exhausted. But maybe that's where you're at. Maybe it's what you need to hear. You're not alone in it. And I'm someone feeling that who has a strong faith, and I love the Lord, and I know he's got a plan. That doesn't mean I feel any less like this right now. So you might see a bit more emotions in the next video when I get more personal about my own life and my own journey right now, and hopefully that can help somebody. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, I did not review how my outro or intro goes, and I don't remember exactly what it is that I would say in my little ending. I do remember the verse that inspired the name of this channel, and as hard as it is to believe right now, it's still truth. So I hope you remember that you are more precious than rubies, and so am I. Dang it, here are the tears. I knew they were going to come at some point. But yeah, you are loved. You are not alone. And I do appreciate you listening to this. I think that's kind of what I would always say anyway. But yeah, have a great night. Again, thank you for watching. If you're going through something right now, I'm so sorry. Please comment how I can be praying for you. And I'll see you next time.